Okay, it's good to meet you. My name is Lisa Lilienfeld. I'm a graduate student in the clinical psychology program at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology in Washington, D.C. And my supervisor's name is Dr. Smith. We're going to be doing a 50-minute interview today where I'll be asking you a number of questions about why you're here today, what you're looking for help with, and I'll be taking some notes about that, and also be asking you some background questions so that I can put the current issues into some context in order to be of most help. Do you have any questions about any of that?
No.
Okay. So let me move on to issues of confidentiality. Because you are an adult, everything that we cover here is confidential with just a few potential exceptions.
Okay.
So if you give me reason to believe that you're in imminent danger of harming yourself or someone else, I would need to do something to try to intervene with that.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to let me know about any child abuse or elder abuse or abuse of any other vulnerable population, even if it had nothing to do with you directly, I'm a mandated reporter of that. What else? If you were to become involved in any kind of legal proceedings in the future, it's possible that a court can mandate release of assessment or treatment records.
Okay.
And then the only other thing is that, as I mentioned, I'm a graduate student in training, and I'll be reviewing this interview for feedback for myself with my supervisor afterwards, and she's the only one I'm consulting with about it.
Okay.
And that's about all the potential confidentiality exceptions. Do you have any questions about
No.
any of that? Okay. And then maybe the last thing that's related to the supervisor is that you may have noticed that we have recording stuff here, which we do for the interview, so that afterwards, as I said, I'm going to review it with my supervisor so I can get feedback about it for myself. And then after I've obtained that feedback, we destroy the interview recording.
Okay.
So I have a consent form that kind of describes that, what it's used for, and then what happens to it. If you can take a look, let me know if you have any questions about anything here. If you don't, you can go ahead and sign at the bottom. See there. Okay. All right. Can you think of anything else you'd like to ask before we
No.
move ahead? Okay.
Not yet.
All right. Well, why don't we start with what brings you here today?
So I recently just had 2 babies, and I feel like I have the baby blues. I went to my PCP, and they said that I should talk to somebody because I'm not just feeling not right.
Okay, can you tell me a bit more about how you're feeling, your mood, and other things?
Sure. So, I'm really excited to have these babies, and they're wonderful and beautiful, but I just feel like some days I can't wake up in the morning, and I'm so stressed, and I'm tired all the time, and I also have like these weird regrets about the babies, and like they're just so much work, and I just didn't think motherhood would be like this. And some days I like sleep, like I just feel like I don't get enough sleep, and then I get a lot of energy, but then I crash so hard, and I just I don't know, I don't feel right.
Okay. And how old are your babies?
4 months old.
Okay, and so you have more than one baby?
They're 2. They're twins.
Okay.
Boy and a girl.
Okay,
Yeah.
so 4-month-old twins, and this has just been much, much harder than you thought. Okay.
Yeah.
And does it feels different than you expected and sounds different from other other mothers who you've talked to in terms of what they've been going through, you think?
Well, I mean, everyone at the baby group, they're like making baby food, and they're like taking their kids out, and I feel like I can't get a handle on it, and I'm just so tired and just then I get irritable, and I don't know what it all means.
Okay. And are those your only children? These 2? Okay. And do you have a partner? Are you married?
I'm married, yeah.
Okay. And how long have you been married?
About 3 years.
Okay. All right. And so is it the 4 of you in your home?
Yes.
Okay. So what you're describing, the struggles you're describing, when did they begin? Did they begin right after your babies were born? Or?
I think I've always kind of struggled with, I want to say like depression, like sad. I've always like feel like I've had a level of sadness, but this definitely was exacerbated once the babies came. I felt like when I was pregnant, my hormones were fine, but now I'm just all over the place, up and down.
Okay. And the all over the place and just not feeling right, has that been for the entire 4 months since the babies were born?
Yeah, I would say a week after the babies were born, I started to notice a difference. And my husband, even more so, was just like, you need to get help. And I tried to kind of do mindfulness on my own and tried to like meditate to stay calm, but it's not working.
Have you sought treatment ever before? You had mentioned you have had some issues with being sad in the past. Is this your first time seeking treatment?
No, I've been in therapy before. I've taken medications too.
Okay, when was that?
About 2 years ago.
Which, both of those things, therapy and meds?
Meds I started when I was 25.
Okay, and how old are you now?
29.
Okay, and what medicine were you on?
I was on, it's called, I think, Lexapro.
Uh-huh.
It's an SSRI.
Yep.
Yeah, I was on that for depression.
Okay, and that was when you were 25. Do you remember the dose of that by chance?
20.
Okay, and how long were you on that for?
I kind of went off on it when I was 27 because I hate being on meds and I do feel like myself. So, and I was okay to manage my symptoms.
Okay, so you're on for 2 years. You went off. Was there something in particular, troubling side effects that bothered you, or just in general?
I went on the internet and I read things about Lexapro, and it's just not good.
Okay.
And I wanted to have kids, and I didn't want to be a mom on meds. So.
Okay, so you didn't personally have any problems with it so much, or you said you didn't feel like yourself. Is that, or is it just like the idea of taking meds?
It's just the idea of taking meds.
Okay, gotcha. Do you feel, in retrospect, that it was helpful for you, for your mood?
Yeah. I don't know. I felt like I had way more energy than ever. I just felt really good. Like,
okay.
I didn't really need to sleep a lot.
You didn't need to sleep?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I didn't need as much sleep as I feel like I need more sleep now.
All right.
And I'm not getting enough.
Okay. So any other medicine in the past to deal with mood or anything like that? And what was the therapy about? When was that?
So I was 27. I started seeing this woman for about 6 months, and I just felt like her techniques weren't working. She just wanted to talk about stuff, and I just feel like we weren't getting to a solution. I wasn't fixing anything in my life, so I just picked up some self-help books, and that was what I did after that.
Okay. So you went, when you stopped the meds, did you try her?
Yeah.
Okay. 6 months, you didn't find it helpful. What was the thing that you were looking for help with? Was it mood stuff or something else?
I just wasn't feeling great about myself as a person, so I just wanted to kind of work on some identity challenges.
Okay. How was your mood at that time?
It was okay. It was up and down.
All right. Okay. Any other treatment for mood or any things like that prior, other than the medicine and the therapy you just told me about?
No.
Okay. So back to how you're feeling now. Can you said just maybe a week after the babies were born, and it's been about 4 months. Would you say that your mood is depressed or down most of the day, nearly every day?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say yeah. I just feel sad and just not hopeless, because I feel like that sounds bad, but just I don't know, it would be easier sometimes if I wasn't around.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my babies might be better off with a different mother.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just feel like I'm not a good mom. I'm not providing them the life that they should have. I just feel like, I don't want to say numb, but I just don't, I can't feel the way I once felt before.
Okay, got it. So you said you don't want to say hopeless. Do you feel it but don't want to say it, or you don't think it's quite like that?
I think it's hopeless.
You do feel hopeless?
It just feels weird saying it out loud.
Okay. And would you say both the sad mood and the hopelessness has been true most of the day, nearly every day for these 4 months?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you had mentioned feeling like sometimes it would be better if you weren't here. Can you just tell me more about that? Thoughts that you've had currently or in the past about ending your life?
I mean, it was a while back. It was after that 6 months in therapy, I just felt like nothing was helping. Meds didn't do anything great. Therapy didn't do anything great.
Okay.
So I just wondered, maybe I was better off not being around. But I never attempted. I never attempted. I just thought it'd be easier to take some pills and just go to sleep. And I was also having trouble getting pregnant at that point. So.
Okay. So you had thoughts about, you never actually did anything, it sounds like, but you had thoughts about, maybe it'd be better if you weren't here and taking pills. Did you ever, even though you didn't act on it, did you ever have a more concrete plan in place at that time?
I had the pills.
Okay, what pills were they?
I had Ambien, and I found Abilify from my cousin. She had some in her cabinet, and I looked it up on the internet. If you took just enough Ambien and Abilify together, you could die.
Okay, so did you actually take some of her Abilify at home with you, or did you just know it was there? Or
I just knew it was there. I never actually took it, but I knew if I needed to take it, I could take it.
Okay, so you had that was kind of a working plan, even though you didn't act out. Were things ever so bad then or at any other time that even if you didn't act on it, you were pretty kind of closely planning and had thoughts about, being close to doing something?
When I was 18 or 19.
What was going on then?
I was in college. I thought I was gonna go to med school and do stuff, but I failed Chem. So it just kind of made me think, is this worth doing? Is it worth living? Am I gonna find the right person? I just got broken up with. So I just felt like everything was kind of crashing down.
Okay, and tell me more specifically the kinds of thoughts you had in terms of ending your life then.
I would be better off dead, and I'm not good enough to be around here, and everyone else is living this amazing life, and I don't want to be here anymore.
Did you have any similar, more formed thoughts about pills or anything else at the time?
Then I was thinking about just going for traffic, walking out in front of the campus. There was a big highway, and if I went at a certain time, I'd be hit by a car.
Okay. And how close did you get to doing something like that?
I never actually went out to do it. It was always my escape plan. Then I just figured, what if it didn't work? What if I didn't actually die? What if I was a vegetable? That would have been worse. So.
Okay. What other times in your life did you have more formed thoughts about potentially ending your life?
It was just those
two.
Yeah.
Okay. How about not necessarily ending your life, but any purposeful injury, if you're harming yourself, like cutting, burning, those kinds of things?
I've cut my arm a couple times, but it was just kind of in stressful moments. And the first time I did it scarred, and then the second time I was I don't want another scar, so it was a handful of times that I did it.
Okay. When was the last time, do you think?
27.
Okay, so that was a really rough time for you. Okay. And do you know how old you were the first time?
Around 18, 19.
Okay. Any other kinds of self-injury?
No.
Okay. All right. What time in your life do you think was the worst mood-wise for you?
27.
Okay. And do you think it's different now because you have the babies and sleep and all of that? Do you think in terms of the overall mood state and how you were functioning was worse then or worse now?
I think it's worse for different things. I think I feel like I have more of an obligation to. I mean, as much as I've had these thoughts, I can't do it because these wouldn't have a mom, and I feel like that would mess them up even more, even though sometimes I think they would be better off with someone else. So I think 27, I was more inclined. It was worse when I was 27 because I didn't really have anything holding me back.
Does your husband know about these struggles that you have in terms of the suicide specifically? Kinds of thoughts? Okay. How confident do you feel that if things were to take a bad turn in terms of that kind of thing cropping up again, that you would feel comfortable to tell him?
I think he'd pick up on it. That's the reason I'm here. He was like, you're not yourself, you're not kind of doing the things that you used to do, and the babies need you, and you need to be okay. So that's why I'm here.
Okay. I know that you're currently not having particular thoughts like this, but do you, just to check in on a couple things, do you have any guns in your home?
Yeah.
Okay, and whose are they?
That's my husband. He's military.
Okay, and how do you think he would respond if you let him know that you're not, we can talk more about this if we end up working together, but if, letting him know that you're not currently thinking about anything like this, but just when somebody struggled with this kind of thing in the past, it's often a good idea just to have like the environment as clean as possible, so to speak, so that just if out of the blue, really unexpectedly, things kind of cropped up, that that wasn't around, because that tends to be a risk factor for people.
I know he has them locked up
Yeah.
because of the babies and because of me.
And do you have access to the key or? Okay.
But I know that there are guns in the house.
Okay, but you can't access them. Okay, so that's probably a pretty safe situation. And we can, like I said, if we end up working together, we can talk about whether there's anything more you want to, bring him in on, just in terms of making a plan for things for you. So to get back to your current mood state, so I'm hearing that it's really quite bad now. It's quite bad at age 27. Specifically now, thinking about currently over these 4 months, would you say that you have had a change in your level of interest or enjoyment of things?
Yeah, I mean, I don't go for runs anymore, but I also don't have time to go for runs anymore.
Is there anything that gives you pleasure or enjoyment that you find of interest?
Yeah, I mean, when I don't feel like super down, I like the babies when they're not crying. When they're not crying, oh my gosh, they're beautiful and wonderful, but when they cry, I just feel like the world's crashing down. In terms of enjoyment, I like going outside, so when it's like not freezing out, I can bring the babies out with me.
You feel some pleasure when you do that?
Yeah, I just feel like I'm kind of free. I really like to hike and go camping and stuff. And even though I haven't been able to do any of those things, I'm looking forward to, like, at some point I can do those.
If you had the time to do them, you have a sense that you would get some enjoyment out of them?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you mentioned sleeping. I'm sure it's extremely challenging to sleep with the babies and their schedule. So it might be hard to answer this. What I'm curious about, sometimes when people's mood gets really low and they're struggling with feeling down or depressed, that their sleep changes. This might be a bit hard to answer with the baby schedule.
I've always been a weird sleeper in the sense that, like, sometimes I sleep all the time and I'm just so tired.
Okay.
But then there are other times that I don't really need to sleep. I feel like a couple days. And I get so much done. I can clean. In college it was good because I would get papers done, but then I crashed.
Okay.
So.
When was the last time you had an experience like that you're describing, like not needing to have much sleep and feel really energetic?
About a month ago.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, in the middle of the 4 months, there was actually. Okay, can you tell me about that?
I remember I was like just kind of feeling really down and couldn't sleep because the babies were not sleeping. And then I was like super exhausted the first 24 hours of not sleeping, but then all of a sudden something like changed. And I had just like all this energy. I was able to cook. I was able to clean. I was like on top of it, up the top of the feedings, and the babies didn't cry or didn't bother me as much. But then like 2 days later, I crashed.
Okay. And did anything happen differently in terms of like medicine or any like, I don't know, like.
I had coffee, but I mean no more than I do every day.
Okay, so that didn't change. How much coffee is typical for you every day?
5 cups.
Okay, and so that's like regular mug or something larger than that?
Yeah, like the Keurig 8 ounce.
Okay, 5 of those 8 ounces. Yeah. Okay, and that's been true for how long?
How long have I drank that much coffee? Oh, like most of my life, yeah.
Okay.
It's like a regular thing.
Okay. But, you just kind of out of the blue went from being in a really down place to just like suddenly feeling different. How would you describe your mood during that time a month ago?
Energetic and just like good, like, but my husband doesn't like when I'm like that because he says I just come off really crazy and I don't seem rational. But I was cleaning, the whole house was so clean that day or that like week. I actually took the babies out shopping and I went to Target and I bought all these like new baby gadgets, kind of like the diaper genie. I got the Mamaroo, just all these things that normally I wouldn't spend money on, but I was just feeling really good and this was going to help me. And then, I felt better. I felt
so
better.
Why doesn't he like it?
Oh, because he was like, you spent $600 at Target. And I was like, well, I need these things. And I finally had energy to go out to Target. So, and then sometimes I do like online shopping at like Amazon. And I was buying things in bulk, like paper towels.
Normally, paper. Or you're saying just when you feel like
just when I feel like this. I just feel like I have a to-do list and I want to get everything done on the to-do list.
Okay. What do you think, what's the most, I guess, objectionable thing in his opinion that you might have done that he thought was not yourself or potentially dangerous or just bad in some way?
I think like the cleaning at like midnight when the babies were sleeping, instead of trying to go to bed when the babies were sleeping, I was just like cleaning and ripping out all the spices in the spice rack and really trying to do a deep clean, like ripping everything out of the bathroom and just like every inch I just wanted to clean.
Is that what he meant by like crazy? It seemed like over the top too much. And is that not typical for you to like be doing stuff like that?
I mean, when I like on an everyday basis, no, I don't have time to do that.
I mean, even when you're not sad or depressed, just like
no, not really. I just felt like that day, those couple days, I just wanted to spring clean and.
Okay. Is there anything other than the spending money that you did a month ago that you can remember that was like potentially not so great or like could have gotten you into trouble or like potentially dangerous?
Sometimes I just want to go for a drive by myself and I drive just faster than normal. I just want to see how fast I can go. I live like out in the country and sometimes on those dead roads I want to see if I can hit 100 and if I can hit 100 can I hit 105 and if I can hit 105 can I hit 110.
And is that not normally how you drive?
No, because usually I drive with my husband or the babies and usually I'm just like we got to slow down, but I came home one night and I was bragging that I got up to 107.
Okay.
Yeah.
But even when they're not in the car with you, if you're not feeling in this way that you're describing, are you normally a fast driver or no? Okay. And how about anything else that's out of the ordinary when you're feeling like that, like you did a month ago? You described a number of things that sound different.
I just feel kind of so powerful and like nothing can stop me.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you have any like special powers or skills, like thinking back a month ago?
No, just like I just feel unstoppable. Like I can do anything, and I mean I do everything. I clean, I cook, I can like read.
Yeah. Okay, and so your energy is extremely good. And the sleeping was like what? How much sleep did you get at that time?
I don't think I did. For like 4 days straight, I think
What do you mean by you didn't? Like. So
I remember it was like 24 hours I couldn't sleep because the babies were just super irritable.
Okay.
And then after that 24 hump, I like for 3 days straight after that, so like 4 days total, did not sleep. Then that 5th day hit, and I couldn't move.
Like you don't think you even slept 30 minutes at night?
I just was going.
Okay. And what happened to you then? Like what, do you remember, did anybody comment on it?
My husband was getting really annoyed with me.
Okay.
And my sister came to visit, and she just kind of gave me these eyes, like, what's your deal? What's your problem? This is kind of like what you used to do in, like, college. I'd get like this. Okay.
Do people comment that you speak more quickly than normally at the time?
They did say that, like, you're... That, like, I couldn't stop talking. And my sister is in psychology, and she said something about, like, pressured speech. I don't know
Yeah.
what that is.
Yeah, it just means that you're like, it feels like it's hard to keep up with how much you have to say. Was it like that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What were you going to say?
Oh, yeah, that I was just like, I wanted to tell every story possible.
Right. Okay. Do you remember that your thoughts were like going really quickly? Okay. And so the last time that happened was a month ago, and it lasted, did you say you think it lasted for 4 days?
4 days.
Okay. And how many separate experiences like that do you think you might have had where at least 4 days in a row you had like that kind of like really elevated mood and not needing to sleep but still really energetic, doing things like maybe impulsive, spending, like you were saying, your husband's like, what's going on here? Or he might not have been around if it happened in the past, but all of that together, has that happened? You mentioned college, but do you think all of that has occurred for at least 4 days in a row in the past?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how often do you think? How many times
like
prior?
The part that's really kind of speaking to me is college. It was great when I had finals. And that's how I would kind of get through it. But it did kind of get me in trouble because I would go out sometimes when I was feeling like this.
Okay.
And like cheated on my boyfriend a couple times.
Okay.
With other guys that I just met.
Okay.
My roommate hated me because I would like be doing things at all times of the night.
Okay. Okay. And so was college the first time you experienced this, or what? Yeah. So what age would you guess?
Like 19.
Okay. And if you were to estimate the number of separate occasions you've had an experience like that, 4 days or more, what would you say?
Got a couple, like 6 or 7 times a year.
Oh, 6 or 7 times a year since age 19?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever done anything that got you like brush with the law or any kind of actual legal trouble related to this or anything else? Like what?
Drunk once when I was 19.
Okay. And were you in this kind of
state? I didn't feel drunk. I just felt great. So I got in the car.
Okay. And what happened with that?
I got pulled over. I was just kind of, I guess I was talking fast because he said that I was sounding ridiculous and he took me and he arrested me and I had a DUI.
Okay. And did you say that was age 19?
19.
Okay. Any other legal experiences you had related to either like feeling that kind of mood state or anything else?
No. I usually, like when I'm feeling like that, I just try to put it towards something more positive, like cleaning or organizing or shopping or, yeah.
How many days does it usually last?
Like 4 or 5.
Okay.
That first 24 hours is weird, but once I get over that, I feel great.
Okay. And during any of those times, or any of the times that you're feeling quite the opposite, sad, or really any time at all actually, but particularly those times, have you ever had any unusual experiences where you were hearing or seeing things that other people didn't hear or see?
No.
Or had thoughts that you think other people wouldn't have had, unusual thoughts that you don't usually have, such as people plotting against you or being out to get you or being able to control things like with your mind or being controlled or things like that?
I just feel unstoppable. I just feel like it's like if I could, I mean, I think that's also why I was like, I could do med school. If I just felt like this all the time, I could definitely do med school. It wouldn't be hard.
Okay.
But no, just feeling like good, powerful.
Do you have, who's in your family? Your family of origin?
My mom, my dad, and my sister. She's younger than me.
Okay, how old is she?
She is 2 years younger.
Okay, so she's about
27,
yeah. And among any of them, or even any other extended relatives, tell me what you know about any issues related to mood in any way, like we're talking about, or anxiety, or eating, or unusual thinking or behavior.
My dad was really strict with us growing up, and he was the primary caretaker. My mom, she was a wild woman. She just was all over the place. She never stayed home. She moved. She'd come back. She'd check in on us.
She'd move away?
Yeah. And then she'd come back.
For what reason did she move?
She just wanted to go on an adventure.
Okay.
She was a party girl, and she'd know my dad all the time, so... But then she'd come back sometimes, and she'd just be, super sad. and just tells that she missed us and she's a bad mom, and yeah.
Okay. Are you aware of her having kind of any similar issues like you're describing, periods of depression and other periods where she was just like up and doing things that weren't her normal self? And like,
I think she was in treatment for bipolar disorder, but she never like stayed consistently with it, and my dad always said that she was just crazy.
What kind of treatment?
She was on medication. I don't remember which ones.
Do you know if she was ever in the hospital for it?
Yeah. One time, she pulled a knife on my dad.
Okay, and that led to a hospitalization?
He called the police, and they said that she wasn't herself, and they put her in the hospital for a couple days.
Mm-hmm.
And then she got released, and she left again.
Okay. All right. Is there any history of suicide and anybody in the family as far as you know?
Not that I know. I just know my dad was kind of feels like how I feel right now, just like sad sometimes.
Okay. Do you think you might have struggled with depression maybe?
Maybe, but he's just not someone who would ever seek out treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't believe in like, you just suck it up and move on.
So that's just your observations.
Yeah.
You're wondering, how about your sister? Any struggles or issues?
No, she's happy. She's in school, and she's good. She has a boyfriend, has a house.
Okay. What's your relationship like with each of
We're
the
really
three
close.
of them? You and her. Okay.
Yeah, my sister and I are really close. My dad, since the babies have been born, has been more present and like really trying to be a good grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
He still makes the side comments to me about like what I'm doing wrong. My mom comes through like a tornado. Like she only uses me to see the babies and post about them on Facebook, but she's never there like to rely on, and I wouldn't feel comfortable leaving the babies with her.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Any issues? I didn't ask about this in terms of the three of them or any other family members with alcohol, drugs that you're aware of.
I smoke pot.
You or them?
I do.
Oh, okay. Now?
Not now because I'm breastfeeding, and I don't know. But I like before I got pregnant was really a couple times a week.
Okay. Couple, like, what is that? How many?
3-4 times a week.
3 or 4 times. Okay. And how long has that been true for you?
Since I was 19.
Okay. Has there been times that it's been more or less, or has it been like steady 3 or 4 times a week since then?
Steady. Yeah.
Okay. And what, if any, consequences, positive or negative, from that, do you think, from smoking?
It just kind of makes me feel numb. I don't really feel anything. I don't feel super sad. I don't feel super like great. But it just kind of like levels me out.
Okay. Okay. Because do you think that's the main reason that you keep using it, is to?
Yeah, to kind of shut off the thoughts sometimes.
Okay. What other drugs currently and in the past have you used?
Alcohol.
Okay.
I used to drink a lot, and my husband and I used to get in a lot of fights when I would drink. He said that I would like flirt with his friends and that I was wild, but like he drinks too, and he can have fun half my time. When he would complain about that and you would drink a lot, was it only during the times that you felt like really like fired up and energetic like you described, or was it outside of those times? Outside of those times, just like we'd go to the bar, but then sometimes I'd get sad when I drank, so it was just kind of a crapshoot. Whether I feel really good or feel not so good.
Okay. All right. And when were you drinking the most? At what age or time frame?
Oh, like 18 to 24.
Okay. And what would be the typical consumption then? How much would you drink then?
I was really into Cosmos, so I would have at least 3 Cosmos, maybe a couple shots of vodka.
Okay. A couple, like how many?
3.
Okay. What else would be typical? So 3 Cosmos and 3 shots.
Yeah.
Would that be
that would be like
usual, or?
my baseline?
Uh-huh.
I would say. If I went out with like certain people, we might do tequila shots, we might have margaritas, and it could be up to 10 drinks in one night.
Okay. Yeah. And tell me the sorts of things that happen related to that in terms of other DUIs or just other things, blackout, other problems that might have come up.
Yeah, I wouldn't really remember, and then I would usually have to ask somebody the next morning what happened, or if I did something stupid. But like, sometimes I'd trip, I'd fall, and have like scrapes on my knees, and I'd be like, "Oops." but other than that, it wasn't. I didn't have a problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so just some of those things. Okay, and the what you were talking about in terms of the blackouts and the amount, was that fairly steady for those 6 years that you described to me, 18 to 24?
Yeah, and then 24, I was with my husband at that point, and he was like, "Well, you have to choose like me or alcohol." So
really?
I can't drink like that. I'll have a drink every now and then, but not the way I once used to.
Okay, and your current drinking patterns are what?
Oh, like a glass of wine every now and then.
Okay. How often would you say? How many times a week or a month?
Once a week. One glass once a week.
Okay.
Because the babies, I breastfeed, so.
Okay. Yeah. And how often might you have like a whole bunch more reminiscent of what it used to be like long ago?
Like after 24?
Yeah.
We would go out for dinner and have 2 or 3 drinks on like a Friday or Saturday night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It definitely slowed down after.
Okay. And what kind of problems, if any, currently related to alcohol or pot, in your opinion, or anybody?
Well, the last 4 months I haven't. Oh no, I'm sorry. The last kind of 13 months, ever since I was pregnant, I stopped smoking pot because that's not good. And then, and drinking, I mean, like once a week with my husband, 1 glass.
Okay. But no pot since
for
13
since
months.
I was pregnant.
Okay. All right. And any alcohol or drug use issues in your family that you're aware of?
My mom drinks.
Uh-huh.
My mom drinks a lot.
What kind of problems does she have from that?
I know she's had like a DWI.
Uh-huh.
And she actually can't drive anymore because she couldn't pay to.
Uh-huh.
So that I think is a big problem for her. But she just Ubers everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
She still drinks, but that's kind of why I don't want her on babies all the time, because I don't know which mom to get.
Yeah.
The good mom or like the mom who's drunk.
Yeah. So that sounds like that was probably quite challenging growing up with that. And that when you were growing up, was religion by chance important in your life or in your family?
No.
Okay. And how about school growing up? Before college, we talked about since college. What about younger in school? What was it like in terms of how school was for you academically, friends, stuff that you did?
I was kind of like a tomboy, so I had a couple of guys that I used to hang out with all the time. And my sister, we would all like kind of like hang out in a group. Mm-hmm. And school-wise, I was good. I kind of got decent A's, like low A's. I did kind of taekwondo from like 9th grade to when I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was a teacher from like 18 to 24.
Teacher of what? Taekwondo?
I was an instructor.
Uh-huh.
But then I had to quit because my husband didn't like that I hung out with those guys. And yeah, so when I was 24, I quit.
Okay. And did you like date some of them or?
Yeah, one of the other instructors I had a thing with. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay, when you were in a relationship with him or before?
Before.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like they never like crossed over, but they were close enough where he didn't feel comfortable with me teaching him anymore.
Mm-hmm. So. Okay. So in terms of romantic relationships, you've been with him. You've been married for 3 years, and how is that?
It's marriage. You have to work at it. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like he's so controlling, and other times I feel like he has my best interest in mind.
Okay.
So.
Okay. And before him, were there any significant romantic relationships?
No, I had boyfriends here and there, but with the exception of the Taekwondo instructor, that was really it.
Okay. And how about friends currently and then younger in your life?
I had more friends when I was younger, and I don't know what happened. I feel like we just kind of drifted apart. They think I'm annoying sometimes when I was drinking, but yeah. I mean, if they were true friends, they would still be my friend, right?
Mm-hmm. So right now your social network is primarily like who do you count?
My sister, my dad, my husband, and there's a woman next door that we're like close because she also has babies.
Oh, okay. Okay. So are you home full time right now with the kids? Yeah. Okay. And before they were born, did you have a job outside of your home?
I did kind of tech and kind of computer stuff for the government, and so now that I'm on maternity leave. They said I could come back and work from home, but I'm kind of just using all my time right now.
Okay, how long have you had that?
Since I was 25. Yeah.
Okay. Is that always the kind of work you've done, or was there any?
Yeah, it's easy. Just computer stuff.
Okay. We spoke some about mood. I might ask you just a couple other questions about that, but you gave me a lot of useful information in terms of mood. But I haven't asked you about anxiety. Is that something that currently or in the past has been an issue for you?
Yeah, maybe it has, but I don't know. I think. Oh wait, what is anxiety?
Well, it's different for different people. I'll give you a couple examples, and you can let me know if any of this seems familiar. So sometimes people have what are called panic attacks, where out of the blue they get just like a wave of anxiety very intensely, very quickly. They might have their heart beating really fast, or might feel hard to catch their breath, or feel just like kind of unusual or tingly or something like that. That's one version of it.
No,
That's not something that's familiar. Other people have not that kind of surge, but just a high level of, I guess we'd call maybe baseline anxiety, where they feel often like just really tense, like muscle tension, kind of revved up, just worrying about lots and lots of things, like multiple things, and being like that for kind of an extended period of time. Does that feel like something?
No, not to that extent. I just think sometimes I worry, like, are the babies going to be okay? Am I a good mom? Am I doing enough? But
how about things beyond those kind of parenting, mom things that you're describing? Does it feel like you've always been a warrior?
No.
Or sometimes people have what are called obsessions or compulsions. So obsessions are things that just kind of repeatedly pop into your head, like about fear of being contaminated, or of like harming someone in a like impulsive way. Compulsions are things that people do repeatedly, like repeated washing, repeated checking, repeated counting. Those are not there. Okay. And how about any? Sometimes people experience anxiety related to maybe having experienced a trauma at some point. Is there anything that you would consider to have been a trauma in your life? It does sound like you've experienced ample stress with regard to your mom. Is there anything that you would consider like a discrete trauma?
No, not anything where it was so overwhelming. I feel like life has been tough and life's rough, but I can't think of anything that really messed me up.
Okay. And how about eating? Has there ever been a time in your life currently or in the past when anybody's like commented on your eating or your body, other than being pregnant, of course, has like changed in terms of your weight's changed like significantly down or up? Or
I mean, my dad always told us that if we didn't eat right, we would get fat, but I'm lucky that I have a fast metabolism and I run, so I don't think I think I was always conscious of it, but I never stopped eating or threw up after a meal. I just was kind of like,
okay, all right. And then running, how much did you run, or do you run now?
Not really now, but before the babies, before I was like super pregnant, like 3-4 miles a day, a couple times a week, just kind of like to distress.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, just one other thing about, we were talking about younger years. Do you remember anything about being told by either of your parents about when you were born, like anything about your birth being like typical, anything unusual, as well as when you were a baby?
I was a C-section. That's all I remember.
Do you remember hearing about any kind of issues with that?
I was a C-section because my mom was really small, and there was no way I was going to fit out.
Okay.
No.
Did you hear anything about like any trouble with that procedure?
No, I don't think so. I just remember she always used to complain that like now she's got the scar because of me.
Okay. And then growing up, when you were very young, like a toddler, sometimes parents tell their kids about like their development, such as walking or talking or things like that. Do you remember hearing anything about those sorts of things, if they were unusual?
Till I was like 2.5. So I know that's, I think, delayed.
Okay.
But I walked on time. I toileted around 2. Other than that, just know I didn't talk for a little bit.
Okay. Okay. All right. And then with regard to medical history, tell me anything of note, recent or in the past, in terms of being hospitalized for things or surgeries or head trauma, stuff like that.
I had my tonsils removed when I was 12.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. And you're not on any meds now?
Not now.
Okay. Do you have any medical conditions?
No.
Okay. Okay. So I maybe want to get back to what you came here starting to speak about, just to make sure I have the most important details down and make sure I haven't missed anything. So it sounds like you have these two different kinds of unusual mood states, really. You have these times that it sounds like typically they last about 4 days, and you have them fairly frequently, maybe 6 or 7 times a year. The last one a month ago, where just have like a ton of energy and don't really need to sleep, but are still energized, get a lot of stuff done. Sometimes it ticks off your husband because maybe you'd spent a bunch of money or like flirting or things that aren't your typical self. And then the other, what you really came initially talking about, was the opposite of that, which is just like you said, after the babies were born, very soon after, within a week, just mood being low, really low, and feeling some hopelessness. And then you had also said that this was not the first time that you had struggled with that. Is that true? Do I have that right in terms of the sad portion? So when was the first time that you experienced, say, at least 2 weeks in a row or more of feeling sad or down most of the day, nearly
13.
every day? Age 13?
Yeah.
Okay.
My mom left for like a long period of time. I needed her.
Okay.
She was gone.
Gotcha. That was the first time you remember?
Yeah.
Okay. What other things do you remember feeling at that time in addition to the mood? So some things, for instance, we spoke about are sometimes if people are feeling sad, they might have sleep disturbance or low energy or difficulty concentrating or change in appetite, things like that. Do you recall at that time other things going along with it?
Definitely wanted to sleep more.
Mm-hmm.
I found it really hard to concentrate in class.
Mm-hmm.
Just like didn't care to do anything, like run or hang out with friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was 13. But I didn't have any of like that suicidal stuff. Not that. That happened later in life.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How long, when this first occurred at 13, could you estimate? I know this is a while ago, but how long do you think that persisted for?
She left, let me think. She left in July. No, sorry. She left in September when school started, so it was just really crazy time for her to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And then Christmas happened. I still remember like not getting excited for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it was about like March that I finally felt like I started to kind of come out of it.
Okay.
So it was a while.
Okay.
But I was like fine. Like I didn't.
You were functioning.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
it
about
was
6
harder.
months, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was harder
right.
to do
Mm-hmm.
things that I had done before.
So how many separate times, just your best guess, because I know this is thinking over a long period of time, I'm going to summarize the kinds of symptoms you describe. Feeling sad or down most of the day, nearly every day, not feeling like all that interested or motivated in things, not getting a lot of pleasure out of things, maybe wanting to sleep a lot, it sounds like low energy, maybe poor concentration, things like that. You said at age 13 it lasted for 6 months. How many separate times in your life would you guess that you had those symptoms kind of occurring together, lasting for at least 2 weeks in a row?
How many times?
Yeah. Just like your best
more
estimate.
than 10. I mean, since I was 13 and 29, like, it's happened like a lot.
It happens pretty, like, how many times a year do you think it might happen?
Well, that 6 month span was probably like 13, and then again, I want to say when I was 18, like the long spans, like 13, 18, again when I was 19,
Mm-hmm.
24, 25, I don't remember the exact year.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I went on meds because I was feeling that like long period again.
What do you think the longest period of time in your life has been where you haven't had that, like, kind of sadness and all that goes along with that, or that feeling like up and revved up? Like, what's the longest period of time have you ever felt just okay?
4 months.
3 or 4 months is
Yeah.
maybe the longest you felt okay.
Yeah.
And you do have some times that you feel okay.
I mean, I think okay is relative in the sense that I still have these thoughts of, like, I'm not good enough, but I feel like I'm not, like, sleeping, like, or, like, trying to sleep as much as I can, or, like, I can concentrate better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I feel like I've just gotten used to it.
Yeah.
I think that's where I think it's hard for me to kind of pinpoint out these months, because I think 6 months was the worst when I was 13, but then I kind of got used to it, and then it was like just kind of became the new normal.
Do you think you've ever had 2 years or more in a row with just the kind of more down, kind of hopeless, kind of low energy stuff without this other, like, kind of energy burst coming in? No. Okay. Okay. And then last question, then we can wrap up. So you described what happened a month ago. When was the last time you had any period of time that you felt okay? I know you're just saying that it's hard to even know what normal is at this point because you've struggled with a lot over a long period of time. Can you think of the last time you felt not real low and not that revved up high?
When I was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
When I was pregnant, I felt normal.
I see. Okay.
And interestingly enough, I had talked to some doctors, and they say that when you're pregnant, that, like, all the symptoms kind of go away, and that's maybe because of the hormone
Something
change.
about the hormones, interesting.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I don't want to go on medication, because I'm hoping this hormone change could, like, continue on.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, these last couple of months, 4 months, I don't think I'm not going to be that person, because I'm still feeling sad and all over the place.
Well, we're toward the end of our time, so let me just tell you my thoughts and see what you think. So, first of all, I just want to say I really appreciate you shared a lot with me. I know we just met, and this is really, really going to be useful. Like I said, I'm going to consult with my supervisor. You've struggled for a long time with a variety of mood and other related symptoms, and I know that that's why you're coming for help now. And so we're going to put our heads together so that I can come back and give you kind of our ideas based on your history. So sharing all this was so helpful for me to be able to have that context. And we are going to, if you're interested in returning next week, I can give you our thoughts about, given your history, given what you're going through now, what some possibilities might be in terms of treatment ideas, because I hear what you're saying, what you've tried in the past, what you're interested in, maybe not so interested in. Is that something that you would be interested in doing in terms of returning? Okay. And I know we have just a minute left, but is there anything really important that you can tell me in within a minute, I suppose, that anything you get a sense of the sorts of things I'm inquiring about, anything that you think I've missed that would be very important for me to know?
Yes, all the questions.
Okay. All right. Well, again, I really appreciate everything that you're willing to share. I'm going to consult with my supervisor, and we're going to have some hopefully helpful feedback for you so we can figure out a plan for how to move forward.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.